Shalom, I'm Rabbi David, and today I'm going to tell you something that will shake everything you thought you knew about God, prayer, and money. And before you judge me, before you call this blasphemous or outrageous, listen carefully to every word, because by the end of this message, you will understand why most people stay broke their entire lives, even while praying every single day. And you will understand the spiritual technology that the wealthiest Jews throughout history have quietly used to build abundance, prosperity, and financial freedom. Here is the truth you were never told. God doesn't want your prayers for money. Yes, I said it. Stop praying to God for money. It will never work. Not because God is angry, not because God is ignoring you, not because you haven't prayed hard enough or long enough. It doesn't work because that's not how the Creator designed abundance to function. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let me take you straight to Scripture. Not my opinion, Torah truth. There is a moment in the Torah that reveals everything about how God responds to human need. The Israelites are standing at the edge of the Red Sea. The water is in front of them. Pharaoh's army is behind them. People are screaming, panicking, begging for help. Moses does what any religious person would do. He prays. He cries out. He begs for deliverance. And what does God say? "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to move forward." Think about that. Moses, the greatest prophet in human history, is praying. And God says, "Stop praying, start moving." This is the foundation of everything I'm about to teach you. If God said this to Moses, what makes you think He wants you to beg for rent money, for a raise, for a financial breakthrough? You see, most people pray for money because they believe God is withholding. They think God is in heaven deciding who gets blessed and who stays broke. They think abundance is based on divine favoritism, like God is handing out financial coupons to the people He likes most. This thinking is wrong, completely wrong. The Creator is not withholding anything from you. The Creator is an infinite force of giving. Constant, endless, overflowing. God is giving 100%, not 80%, not 90%, 100%. So why don't you feel it? Why aren't you receiving it? Why are you still struggling? Because you are not positioned to receive. You don't have the vessel. You don't have the alignment. You don't have the consciousness to hold what God is already giving. Let me give you a simple example. Right now, electricity is flowing through the walls of your house. Constantly, day and night. It never stops. But if you don't plug in your device, you get nothing. Not because the electricity isn't there, but because you're not connected. This is how money works. This is how blessing works. This is how abundance works. People pray to God asking Him to send money. But spiritually, the money is already flowing. What's missing is the plug, the vessel, the connection. Prayer doesn't turn on the power. Prayer is supposed to connect you to the power. But here is the problem. Most people don't pray to connect. They pray to beg. They pray from fear. They pray from lack. They pray from a mindset of, "I don't have enough." And the moment you pray from lack, you disconnect from abundance. Lack shuts the door. Fear seals it shut. Begging locks it from the inside. God is not moved by begging. God is moved by alignment. God is not waiting for your tears. God is waiting for your transformation. This is why your prayers for money don't work. Not because God isn't listening, but because you're praying incorrectly. You're asking God to do what He already did. You're praying for a blessing He already provided. You're begging for a flow that is already pouring over your life every second. The only problem is, you're not plugged in. So today, I'm going to teach you how to stop praying for money and start positioning yourself to receive it. I'm going to show you how to shift your consciousness, align your actions, and build the vessel that allows blessing to finally flow into your life. Because when you stop begging and start connecting, everything changes. Prosperity changes. Opportunity changes. Your entire destiny changes. So buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal will reshape your understanding of money, God, and abundance forever. And once you understand that abundance is already flowing, you begin to see the Torah with completely different eyes. You start to notice that the greatest breakthroughs in Scripture never came from people who begged. They came from people who moved, people who acted, people who stepped into uncertainty with courage before the miracle ever appeared. There is a moment in the Torah that almost no one pays attention to, yet it reveals the real money secret, the one that has built Jewish prosperity for thousands of years. It's not about prayer. It's not about waiting. It's not even about worthiness. It's about alignment, mindset, action, and a kind of spiritual bravery that most people never tap into. Let me take you to the walls of Jericho. Joshua is standing before a city fortified so heavily that ancient historians say it was impossible to conquer. The walls were thick, immovable, intimidating. The kind of obstacle that makes a normal person give up before they even try. And yet, God gives Joshua the most unusual instruction. Walk around the walls, every day, 7 days. On the 7th day, walk around 7 times and blow the shofar. Now imagine Joshua saying what most people today would say. But God, we need a miracle. We need you to break the walls. Imagine the people crying, begging, fasting, praying for the walls to fall. But God didn't say pray harder. He didn't say cry louder. He didn't say ask me to destroy the walls. He said move. Walk, act, do the physical part first, and the miracle will follow the action, not the begging. This is the pattern written into the fabric of the Torah. God almost never responds to passive prayers. Every miracle begins with movement. Every breakthrough begins with a human stepping forward before the outcome makes sense. Abraham didn't pray for wealth. He left his homeland. He moved. He built. He acted. Isaac didn't beg for abundance. He planted in a famine. He invested when everyone else was afraid. Jacob didn't wait for prosperity. He negotiated, strategized, and worked with spiritual intention. Not one of the patriarchs became wealthy by sitting under a tree begging for gold to fall from the sky. They didn't wait for blessing. They created vessels for blessing. They aligned with divine flow through courageous action, calculated decisions, and spiritual consciousness. And here's where this becomes personal. Because most people today act more like the Israelites before the Red Sea than like the patriarchs. Fearful, frozen, waiting for God to remove the obstacle before taking the step. They pray for the walls to fall while standing still. They pray for money while doing nothing to create a vessel to hold it. They pray for opportunity while running from responsibility. But the Torah shows the opposite pattern. God responds to movement, not stagnation. He responds to courage, not fear. He responds to aligned action, not spiritual passivity. The walls of Jericho didn't fall because the people begged. They fell because the people obeyed a spiritual principle most people ignore. Movement activates miracles. Stepping creates shifting. Walking creates opening. Courage creates collapse of the walls holding you back. And this applies to money exactly the same way. If you're praying for financial relief, but refusing to step into risk, you're doing the opposite of what every Torah hero did. If you're begging for abundance, but still operating from fear, procrastination, and small thinking, you're not aligned with divine blessing. You're aligned with divine resistance. Not because God blocks you, but because fear blocks the vessel. Money, like miracles, flows toward movement. And when you act with aligned intention, when you launch the idea, invest in the skill, make the call, walk the metaphorical wall, it's as if heaven says, "Now we can open the gates. Now the flow has somewhere to go." God never asked you to beg for money. He asked you to move in the direction of your calling. He asked you to create the vessel for abundance to fill. He asked you to walk, to act, to build, to align your consciousness with the flow already trying to reach you. And once you understand this, you stop waiting for the walls to fall. You start walking toward them with certainty that they have no choice but to crumble the moment your steps match your purpose. Most people think money is a reward, something God hands out when you're finally good enough, holy enough, or desperate enough. But that's not how the spiritual world works. In Kabbalah, money is not a reward, it's energy. And energy needs a container. It needs form. It needs structure. It needs a vessel. And without a vessel, the energy simply passes over you, around you, through you, but never into you. This is one of the greatest secrets in Jewish wisdom. And it is the reason why so many people pray for abundance, yet never experience it. The Zohar teaches a principle called Kli, the vessel. The vessel isn't physical, it's spiritual. It's your consciousness, your discipline, your behavior, your structure in the physical world. Think of it like rain. Rain can pour from the heavens all day long, but if you're standing outside with your hands open, you'll catch almost nothing. But if you bring a bucket, suddenly you can hold what was always falling. God is always giving rain. The question is, do you have a bucket? Most people don't. They pray for money while living vessel-less lives. No structure, no discipline, no plan, no alignment, no container that can hold the blessing they're asking for. They want abundance to land in chaos, and even if it did, they wouldn't be able to hold it. The Talmud says, a blessing rests only on something prepared. Prepared means formed into a vessel. Without form, blessing has nowhere to settle. Look at your life honestly. You want more wealth. Where exactly would it go? You want more opportunity. How would you handle it? You want financial freedom. What system in your life is ready to receive it? The Kabbalists teach that light, or divine energy, never enters a space that isn't capable of holding it. This isn't punishment, it's spiritual physics. Light without a vessel is like electricity without wiring. It burns, it overwhelms, it escapes. This is why people who suddenly receive money often lose it quickly. They never built a vessel capable of holding abundance, so the blessing leaks straight out of their life. They blame God, they blame luck, they blame circumstances. But the truth is simple. The vessel was too small, too weak, or completely missing. And here's the part that shocks most people. Praying for money without building a vessel is spiritually meaningless. You cannot receive what you have not prepared yourself to hold. The Zohar compares this to pouring wine into a cracked cup. Everything spills. And yet people continue to pray for more wine without repairing the cup. In Jewish spirituality, the patriarchs weren't wealthy because they prayed for money. They were wealthy because they were masters of vessels. Abraham created vessels of hospitality, generosity, discipline, planning, and action. Isaac created vessels of persistence. He sowed even when the land was barren. Jacob created vessels of strategy, wisdom, negotiation, and spiritual alignment. Each patriarch built containers before asking for blessing. Their wealth didn't arrive by miracle. The miracle was their ability to construct the internal and external structures capable of holding divine flow. Kabbalah teaches that money goes where consciousness can sustain it. If your mindset is built around fear, chaos, and lack, you have a vessel full of holes. Blessing drains out faster than it can enter. But if your mindset is built with discipline, clarity, courage, and responsibility, you create a container that can hold more and more light, more and more abundance. This is why people who grow spiritually often notice that their financial life transforms at the same pace. The consciousness expands, so the vessel expands. The vessel expands, so more blessing can enter. It is the opposite of how the world teaches money. People chase the money instead of building the vessel that naturally attracts it. The truth is simple. Money doesn't chase people. Money chases vessels. And when you finally understand this, everything in your financial life changes. You stop begging for external miracles and start constructing internal readiness. You stop asking God to do what you haven't prepared for. You stop waiting for abundance and start building the structure that abundance requires. Because the moment your vessel is ready, the flow begins. And not because God suddenly decided to bless you, but because you finally built the space where the blessing can live. And this is where we have to confront a truth that most people avoid, because it forces you to look directly at yourself instead of blaming God, luck, timing, or fate. If blessing only flows into vessels, then the real reason your prayers aren't working is painfully simple. You're praying for abundance while living in a state of lack. You're praying for expansion while your consciousness is still contracted. You're asking for divine flow while blocking every channel with fear, ego, hesitation, and misalignment. I've seen this pattern so many times that I can recognize it within seconds. People come to me with tears in their eyes saying, "Rabbi, I'm praying every day. I'm fasting. I'm begging. Why isn't God helping me?" And I look at their life and see the answer clearly. They're praying from the wrong consciousness. Their words are holy, but their mindset is toxic. Their lips say, "God, please send abundance," but their behavior says, "I'm not ready, I'm afraid, I don't trust the process." There was a man named Daniel who came to me at his lowest point, crushed with debt, behind on his bills, losing sleep every night from financial anxiety. He told me he prayed every morning for deliverance, word for word, the same prayer for over 2 years. And yet nothing changed, nothing moved, no breakthrough came. He thought God was ignoring him. But God wasn't ignoring him. Daniel was ignoring the spiritual laws. I asked him one simple question: "Show me your vessel." He looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Show me the structure you built that abundance can enter." He had none, not a single one. His day was filled with fear and avoidance. He had no plan, no steps, no actions, no discipline. He was praying for money while running from every opportunity to create it. His prayers weren't the problem. His consciousness was. The Talmud says, when a person refuses to grow, heaven refuses to answer. Not because God is cruel, but because blessing without growth destroys a person. If you give money to someone who is mentally unprepared, emotionally unstable, or spiritually misaligned, the blessing becomes a burden. Light without a vessel becomes chaos. This is why so many people lose the moment they gain. They pray their way into a miracle, but can't sustain it because the consciousness that attracted it was never developed. Winning the lottery ruins most people not because money is evil, but because consciousness was never expanded to match the blessing. Another woman I worked with, Miriam, prayed non-stop for a better job. Every single day she asked God for a career breakthrough. She said the right things. She cried real tears. But she carried a consciousness of fear and unworthiness. She turned down opportunities because she wasn't ready. She doubted her value. She waited for God to lift her without taking a single courageous step forward. One day I told her, "Your prayer is pure, but your ego is loud." She was offended. But ego isn't just arrogance. Ego is fear. Ego is self-doubt. Ego is the belief that you must be perfect before you act. Her ego blocked the vessel. Her fear made her spiritually closed. Her hesitation told heaven, "Don't send the blessing. I won't receive it anyway." Your prayers aren't working because you pray with your mouth, but block with your mindset. You ask God for more while living as if more would break you. You plead for opportunity while clinging to comfort. You pray for abundance while thinking thoughts of scarcity, complaining, comparing, doubting, procrastinating, and shrinking. Prayer without alignment is noise. Prayer without action is empty. Prayer without growth is ignored, not out of punishment, but protection. So how do you fix it? You shift the consciousness behind the prayer. You remove the ego. Every layer of fear, self-pity, blame, and hesitation. You take action even when it terrifies you. You build the vessel even when you don't believe you deserve the blessing. You align your daily behavior with the abundance you're asking for. If you want wealth, you must act like someone who can hold it. If you want opportunity, you must behave like someone who recognizes it. If you want blessing, you must become someone who can sustain it. This is not motivational talk. This is spiritual law. Heaven responds to alignment, not begging. The universe bends to consciousness, not desperation. And once you stop praying from fear and start moving from faith, once you stop asking God to rescue you and start behaving like someone who is ready for divine partnership, blessing begins to flow. Not because God finally decides to help you, but because you finally decide to open the door. And once you understand that misalignment, not God, is the blockage, everything shifts. Suddenly, you stop seeing money as something you chase or beg for, and you begin to understand it as something you activate, something you allow, something you make space for. And this is where the real transformation begins. Because the spiritual world does not respond to desperation. It responds to structure, clarity, and movement. There is a formula I teach that has changed countless lives. Not because it is complicated, but because it finally aligns human behavior with divine design. It is simple, powerful, and rooted in the deepest layers of Kabbalistic wisdom. And if you apply it with sincerity, it will alter the entire financial trajectory of your life. The first step is connection. Not prayer as begging, but prayer as alignment. Connection means tuning your consciousness to the frequency of abundance. You cannot receive wealth while thinking like a person who fears it, mistrusts it, or feels unworthy of it. Consciousness must rise before the blessing does. When you meditate, when you visualize, when you speak words of truth and gratitude, you are not convincing God. You are calibrating your inner world to match the vibration of divine giving. The Zohar teaches that the Creator is pure flow, pure generosity. But you only receive according to the level of your consciousness. A narrow mind receives narrow blessing. An expanded mind receives expanded blessing. So connection is the internal shift where you stop praying from lack and start thinking from abundance. Where you stop seeing obstacles and start seeing opportunities. Where you stop asking, "Why isn't it happening yet?" and start saying, "I am preparing to receive." But connection alone is not enough. Once consciousness aligns, the second step is creation. This is where most people fail. They meditate, they pray, they journal, they dream, but they never build the vessel. They never create the structure through which abundance can actually flow. A business is a vessel. A skill is a vessel. A financial plan, a savings system, a service you provide, a product you develop, these are all vessels. They are containers that hold blessing. Even something as simple as improving your competence, upgrading your habits, or refining your discipline is part of building the vessel. You cannot ask for wealth while living as someone who neglects responsibility. You cannot ask for opportunity while living as someone who avoids growth. Creation is not glamorous. It is daily, consistent, often unseen work. But it is the work that signals to heaven, "I am ready." I had a student who spent years praying for financial breakthrough. He was sincere but stuck. One day I told him, "Write the business plan you've been avoiding. That is your vessel." He resisted at first, but he finally wrote it. Within weeks, investors appeared that had been around him the whole time, but he never saw them because he had no structure they could connect to. The moment the vessel existed, the blessing arrived. And then comes the third step, the step that activates everything, moving forward. Action is the spiritual ignition. It is the moment you step into the unknown and declare with your behavior, not just your words, that you trust the process. The Red Sea didn't split when Moses prayed. It split when the Israelites moved. Jericho didn't fall when Joshua fasted. It fell when the people marched. Miracles follow motion. When you act with courage, when you make the call, launch the idea, send the proposal, show up with faith, you create a gravitational pull for blessing. Movement tells the universe, I am no longer waiting, I am co-creating. And heaven responds, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. This formula, connect, create, move forward, is not philosophy. It is spiritual technology. It is the blueprint the patriarchs used, the pattern every wealthy biblical figure embodied, the structure that transforms prayer into power. And if you apply it honestly, consistently, courageously, everything changes. Because at the end of the day, the message is simple. Stop praying for money. Start becoming the person who can receive it. Look at your life with unflinching honesty and ask yourself, am I living aligned with abundance or aligned with fear? Am I expanding or shrinking? Am I creating vessels or making excuses? Am I moving forward or standing still, hoping the walls will fall on their own? Wealth is not an accident. It is not luck. It is not divine favoritism. It is a responsibility, a spiritual partnership, a dance between heaven's infinite giving and your willingness to rise to meet it. When you connect your consciousness, create your vessel, and move forward with courage, you unlock a flow that was waiting for you all along. And once that flow begins, your life will never look the same.